It's 7 minutes to 9 a.m. It's time for the weekly edition of Crime Talk with eThekwini Secure. Once again, we join on the line this morning by Imtiaz Syed, Chairperson of eThekwini Secure. Imtiaz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, hope you're doing well. Looking forward to the month of Ramadan, inshallah.
Gee, yeah, alhamdulillah. It's a nice time to be.
Yes, lovely. Imtiaz, well, what we're talking about today, we've got ratepayers, we're talking about oversight, we're talking about neighborhood watchers groups, we're talking about service delivery. So a fair amount to unpack this morning, Imtiaz.
No, absolutely. I think the reason for bringing up this topic is that there's a great misconception in the space of what it is community actually requires. And I think we've conceptualized this around about 2014, 2015, that there were two things that were important to communities by far and large. And the first one being safety and security, the second being service delivery. Now, as much as we would have, encapsulated and taken over the space or grown exponentially in the space of safety and security, we found that as we've taken care of that, there were many needs in community in terms of service delivery, and therefore our trajectory into politics and into becoming councillors and doing all of those things is to expand ourselves in an understanding of what the community needs and for the community. So with that being said, as the Active Citizens Coalition, I approached the Speaker of Council and I said, with all due respect, service delivery to the people exists, right? But it exists at a level at which it's not being perceived correctly or not seen by the people. So we need to start handing direct oversight to communities by far and large. So there's a conceptualization of an idea that's coming to the fore. The meeting is actually set down for the 4th of April, so that's during Ramadan. It's basically a show of interest of ratepayers associations and like-minded neighborhood watch bodies or any type of body that exists within communities. I'm not going to go too much into the detail because what I've seen is since I've started talking about it, there's a few groupings of people that are starting to politicize it and starting to move in a direction that isn't exactly what we're asking for. So I'm not going to go into the details and the strategic plan that we have. However, what we are saying is that as much as you have a councillor, the councillor has a particular role and responsibility in terms of ward development. Your everyday service delivery issues should be taken care of autonomously and automatically by the city. How does that happen? If you can't get through to call centers, if you cannot get through to WhatsApp lines of the city, how then do you complain and what do you do? So all of those things comes down to us coming up with a solution to say that let us recognize ratepayers associations, let us recognize them as the city. So if the city recognizes you, you've got direct inroads through the area-based management strategy, which now speaks directly to any organized organism within your community that takes care of service delivery. And the reason I say this is that there might be a challenge coming in from councillors to say that all things my ward related should come to me. We're saying, no, hold on. Do you have the capacity first and foremost, and can you cover everything? This actually assists councillors in certain areas. So you might get a particular ward where it's very vast, right? And the councillor is expected to cover this entire ward. Can they really efficiently do it? Yes or no? No, they cannot, because they cannot report on every pothole, every water pipe leak, all of these things. So we're saying we need organized communities, and when we find those organized communities, we then take them, give them an understanding of what we want or what are the requirements in order to work with the city. We facilitate that process by a strategic planning working session. We get an understanding of them, we give them our understanding, we come together with sort of consensus to say that this is how we start moving together in GIST. We do a proof of concept and we start rolling out with ratepayers associations, but not ward-based, but localized. So more in your streets. Any small community that wants to be organized can do it for a few streets. And then we take you through and then we give you these inroads within community. So that way you know exactly who your superintendent is. And just so that we can unpack it properly, everyone, I mean, I learned this in the CPF structures, that everybody would like to speak to the provincial commissioner about a simple thing as though they didn't get an affidavit at the police station. It's not at his level. You got to speak to the Vispol commander at your station. So on the same note, I've come up with an idea to say, how do we change how the city works with people? If people are always saying that we only can report through customer care, through e-services. All of those channels exist. Yes, agreed, 100%. But if you as a community in Ward 30 knows exactly who's the senior superintendent in charge of your area for electricity, for water, for garden, for grass cutting, for whatever services, you're now not taking it all the way up and letting it flow all the way down till it gets to that person. And that's where the time frame goes. So from the time an email goes out to the time you get services, the time frame between that is exponential because it goes to the top and comes down, it filters down. I'm saying, and we saying as the Active Citizens Coalition, that direct oversight over the superintendent should be there, not to the degree that you can tell them what to do or things like that, but direct access rather instead of oversight, to say that you have direct access who's in charge of your area, email them, speak to them, take up the issues. Obviously, then you need those reference numbers and those kinds of things. So those are the technicalities that we're working around at the moment in a concept. And once we go through this meeting on the 4th, we'll have a clearer understanding as to how do we move forward in this trajectory that we're going through.
Well, Imtiaz, this is clearly a very, very interesting concept. And again,
Mm.
we're talking about ratepayers associations, we're talking about neighborhood watch groups, and these are stakeholders. And if I look at the concept and when we apply the principle, uh, we can actually draw a comparison to what we see happening in our schools, like for instance your school governing body,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
the same principle would apply in terms of what your thinking is, Imtiaz.
No, absolutely. You always got to learn from best practice. And when you look at different organisms of state that have these sorts of oversight, you see that it actually works. And there is actually accountability and stability on the grounds of service delivery. So if we don't have these sorts of things, then eventually, I mean, who's to say that your grass cutting contractor is actually doing a good enough job? What is his job? When is he supposed to cut? How is he supposed to cut? So that oversight needs to come directly from the community by far and large who you service, because ultimately, it comes down to very simple things, and simple thinking is where we are. Sometimes we become very bureaucratic in what we're trying to achieve, and when we speak of oversight, how do we now put out, for example, the electricity department to fix the lights? But then we also got to employ a manager to go check if those lights are working to be that oversight. I'm saying that oversight already exists within our community. It just takes a certain level of community and a certain level of activism within your community, just that extra bit to give you the service that you require, and you're going to see change through it because now you've got direct links. So ultimately, yes, you might not resolve your problems in a day, you might not resolve them in a week, but within a few months, that level of understanding and that level of camaraderie and friendship that develops between officials of the city and the community directly is what we're looking to achieve. So that way, service delivery is expedited and it's not politically aligned or inclined, if you know what I mean.
Yes, Imtiaz, I'm sure you and I will obviously we'll be discussing a lot more. As you mentioned, it's still in an infancy stage, and I think
Yes,
once we get a lot more clarity and once this initiative gets off the ground, I'm sure we will be talking a lot more about some of the detail behind this concept that you are speaking about. But for now, we say Jazakallah to you. Have yourself a wonderful Ramadan.
mm,
Inshallah, because I think the next
inshallah.
time we speak will be in the
Yeah.
month of Ramadan.
But
All the best to you, inshallah.
Jazakallah so much. But just very quickly, just to touch on the thing, we started out eThekwini Joint Ratepayers Association around about 2019 with this concept in mind. So it's not something that we've newly developed. It's always been a strategic plan of the Active Citizens Coalition to bring services of the officials directly to community. And so when anyone asks, what do small parties do? This is exactly what we do. Jazakallah for that.
All the best to you, inshallah. And once again, as I mentioned, have yourself a great Ramadan. Remember us in your du'as, Imtiaz.
You as well. Jazakallah so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That was Imtiaz Syed, Chairperson, eThekwini Secure this morning, talking about ratepayers oversight and also looking at neighborhood watch groups, service delivery, and also looking at strategic stakeholding when it comes to service delivery issues. And we know that in many of our communities, these are definite issues. And at the end of the day, whether we have a ward councillor, can he or she cope with each and every aspect. And this is where the value add comes in from groups like ratepayers organizations and also our neighborhood watch groups as well. The time is just gone 4 minutes past 9. We're going to go for a break. We come back and a lot more to talk about. We'd like to talk about the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, who has lost some support days before the no confidence vote against him.